And all right, welcome all you freedom loving boys and girls. Here we are, Mark and Redbeard, Mission Critical Podcast. We've had all kinds of weird technical difficulties. Of course, no one's messing with us, but my tab that I always keep open for the little Morse code thing, that suddenly is gone. But we have a very special guest tonight. Well, we have two special guests, but one of them only has about 10 or 15 minutes. So we're just going to jump kind of right into it. But I am still going to start with our kind of traditional opening. If you are watching this podcast or if you're listening to us, we really mean it. You are part of the resistance. Whatever happens next in the future of humanity, in the future of the United States of America, the future of the West, however you want to look at that, it is up to each and every one of us to realize that no one's coming to save us. It's up to each and every one of us to speak out, speak loudly, and not be afraid of telling, speaking truth to words. So on that note, and I think he already froze up a little bit, but what we're going to do here tonight, it's going to be called A Question of Character. So Jeremy and I have been talking, a lot over the last couple of weeks, and we've done a couple different episodes. What does it mean to be a man? Dirty civilians versus we're here from the government, and so on and so forth. We lost him for a second. No, he's back. But we're gonna kind of sum a whole bunch of this stuff up. So we're gonna use current events. We're not going to dive deep into the current events. We're going to use those as segues or doorways into a broader conversation of who are you? Who are we? Again, as a people, as an individual, as a country, as humanity. And we're going to beg some questions of what are the characteristics that define us today? Mm-hmm. Without further ado, Redbeard, I got to give you your moment. Anything to add to that? Everybody knows who you are. So let's and I skip our intros. Anything to add?
Right. I got nothing to add. Let's shoot it right over to Russ, seeing as he's on time constraints.
Natasha, when we come first over to you, we'll have you do your background again. Just, people may not remember who that crazy kick-ass woman is in the corner. Let's bring it over to Russ, who's smiling, who's got an awesome view. He is so one-upping everybody on his view here tonight. Russ, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then you've got the floor, sir. You know where we're going with this. Take it away.
Yeah. So my name's Russ. I served some time in the Marine Corps. Other than that, I'm just an HVAC tech, obviously. Just living the dream. I'll jump right into it. Of course, I have a lot of opportunity to adopt and cherish and live moral code and code of conduct and all that kind of stuff. I just nerd about it and eat that stuff up. But I think about it a lot too, with how folks are, in a generalized way, how folks act these days. And again, I apologize if the sound quality is awful, but I think that my musings brings it back to a historical aspect, right? We had
Uh-oh. Oh, gosh, what a teaser. He just started.
Oh, no, Russ.
Hey, I wish I could actually freeze that frame and take a picture and send it to him. Matter of fact, I wish maybe I would put him, that would be his icon on my phone if he ever calls me. Russ never calls me anymore. All right, let's see. He's coming back. Is he back? No, he's not. All right, so we're going to have to just figure out how we're going to deal with this stuff if we keep losing Russ.
Yep.
Because if that seems to be the case, Natasha, by the way, we can all see you now. You're on the screen. So hi, Natasha.
Hi, Natasha.
There you go. Yeah, we don't have Russ anymore. We may have. Well, yeah. See, there's the signal. We did actually lose Russ. Let's go over to this view. There we go.
Oh no.
Well, I guess let's just kind of mark time, and come up with some bullshit until Russ comes back, and we can just get him.
Russ has been the martyr for this episode.
Well, so far he is. He's definitely.
Yeah.
But hey, but I'm going to say that's a pretty cool city line. Where
that's dope.
Hey, and then here we'll fill the gap right now, so to speak, with this. So I apologize to my co-host Redbeard. I didn't have a chance. Everybody's busy. Everybody's in life is crazy, and we're all busy. But I didn't have a chance to tell them what I'm going to do here. Tonight is going to be a giveaway episode. So I'm going to do this right now while we're waiting on Russ.
Yeah. Lucky ducks you all are.
All right. Now, Jeremy is going to have to pull something out of his ass for a question, but here's going to be the giveaway. It's a T5 custom Kydex holster, right? Inside the waistband, spare mag. It is geared and set up for a Glock, right? So this, and dude, I love this company. I love these holsters. There's a very definitive locking, your weapon is locked in place. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy just real quickly because I'm going to grab a training weapon so you can hear what the sound is. But this is going to be the giveaway for tonight's winner. Jeremy, you think, and whatever, come up with a good question. Again, I think given this characteristic and that constitution, it should be pretty easy for you. Let me just go grab a training weapon so people don't freak out if I put a real.
I actually have a really good question, so I'll pose it while you're gone.
Go ahead.
So here's the thing. So for those of you that have studied the U.S. Constitution, and those of you who understand kind of what the buildup was for how this document was created, how the founders kind of came to their conclusions, you'd know that there are several documents in which were fundamental for this. So my question to everybody is, what was the first in the line of the 5 fundamental documents that impacted how our Constitution came about? What was the first of the 5 documents that was in that that basically helped come to that?
Let me just see if I understand correctly. So you're basically saying there was 5 pivotal or founding documents that led to the creation of the Constitution. Which was the first of those? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh shit! I don't know if I'd win this one. Oh, I think I have an answer, but I'm not sure. And Russ is back. And Russ just gave us the face. Russ is back. So let's wrap this up. All right. So everybody can see this. This is a CERT pistol. This is not a real magazine. It's just a training. This is a training weapon, a training magazine.
Yep.
But I mean, you can see they're great holsters, small business, made in America, good Kydex sheath.
Yeah.
You got a little kicker over here if you want that little kicker for your inside the waistband, spare magazine. Spare magazine holder on the side. Ooh. I think they call it the sidecar. But yeah, awesome. So there it is. Your weapon, loaded obviously, and then a spare magazine. That's tonight's giveaway for whoever can answer Jeremy's question. Yep. And I don't know if I would have won this one, to tell the truth.
I will also, just for reference, what I will do is I will make it a point to also put the question in the comments. So if for some reason somebody doesn't understand the question as well, I will put it in there. So
okay, and when you do that, pin it as the top comment. Okay.
Yep.
All right, now we got Russ back. So let's come back to you. Russ, sorry, we were filling time with a little contest. Yep. You actually could participate if you want to try to win that kick-ass T5 custom Kydex holster. You got a chance too, brother. Yep. All right, I'm bringing you back full screen. Right. I know duty calls, and we appreciate you being here. Yeah. So let's see if we got you here for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I think you all probably heard me leave off around historical context. Yep. And what that connects with me is. As an example, just to give you a frame of reference where my mind is at when I think about it, is we used to have international movements, right? Like just picture in your mind the Art Deco movement, right? That was an international sensation. It had its various forms around the world. Different cultures adopted Art Deco styling with different motifs, and it wasn't just art. It was automobiles and homes and the clothes you wear and things like that. And what connected in my mind was an identity outside of the self, outside of just your one person, which is, there's nothing wrong with being an individual, and I don't think that you have to sacrifice that for anything. But when you're only worried about self, then you can't be bothered to worry about what what virtues or ideals or morals or code of conduct or whatever you want to call it, you should live by and act by in order to improve and benefit others and the world around you. So I feel like and I'm not just banging on people for wanting to be an individual. I'm just saying that the individualistic attitude has devolved everybody to the point where we can't even get on the same page about simple issues. And part of what I cherish so much about my time in the Marine Corps is that we are just chock full of fun little things to live by, little rules and codes of conduct. Yeah, it's just chock full of that stuff. It tells you how to be a good person. It tells you how to stay true to yourself and to those close to you, and they all go by the same thing, so it becomes more harmonious. So yeah, that's what I wanted to bring to the table. And I do gotta go, but I really look forward to watching this. And thanks for having me on for a little bit.
Appreciate you, Russ.
Russ, you are a scholar and a gentleman. That's a great skyline.
Oh man.
And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for joining us for just a few minutes. All right. And that's a great segue. Buddy. Thanks, Russ.
Yep. Yeah.
Woo! All right. Russ has left the house. And you know what? And that's a great way to start this whole kind of conversation. Because, we didn't have a chance to respond to him directly and get his response or his retort. Mm-hmm. But what I liked about that is because, I'm an individual, but there's something so much. If I'm only an individual, if that's all I ever am, well, then I'm a selfish son of a bitch, right? Because that's what, you are. And that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your constitutional rights and your freedoms. Yep. I think what Russ is kind of saying, and this is what I would have wanted to draw out from his comments, and I'll shut up and turn it over to you guys, is that is who we are. And there's certain things that are sacrosanct and they really do pertain to the individual, but an individual who really values, whose values and whose characteristics, transcend the individual. Yep. That's what makes us, it makes us a force to be reckoned with. It makes us a part of something that gives us so many other benefits, whether it's love and companionship or camaraderie or a sense of duty and obligation. And that's how I took what he said. I'm going to bring it over to Natasha first, then we'll come to you, Jeremy. And then once you're done, you can segue into what, what we've already been kind of talking about. Natasha, what do you have to add, or where do you want to take whatever Russ said and where do you want to go with it? It's up to you. Full screen. You got the floor. Oh, and then also, hey, please remind everybody who you are and what your background is, if you don't mind.
Sure. My background, which background?
Whatever background you want to share. Whatever you want to share with people.
Kind of a jack of all trades, master of some. I just a concerned citizen, human being, seeing how the world is falling apart. I have worked in doing everything from personally training people, owning several different businesses, to private security investigations, fraud investigations is my specialty. If I was to summarize up with what I thought was the best part of what Russ had to say, is one word. And one word that we're all lacking, not we are all, but a better part of society is lacking discipline. Discipline, I think, reigns in every other attribute that you need for a society to be civilized and to act with some integrity and a moral character that benefits everybody and not just the individual. It takes great discipline for people to have self-sacrifice, to be able to serve other people, and to not be self-serving. I see it so much in society everywhere, from businesses to law enforcement to government to, just your local community, where people are going to, throw down the gamut and say, no, I'm not doing this because it doesn't benefit me. or the what's in it for me factor. And I think we pride ourselves too much on the what's in it for me factor over how can this benefit the group over just myself.
Yeah.
Well, I almost wonder, is that partially because we've lost that? I mean, I don't know if I want to call it a feeling, or because is it a feeling, or is it a sense of something? I guess that's a feeling. It seems that so many of us have kind of lost that, or maybe we've never experienced it. Maybe that's the other way of saying it. We don't know how awesome it feels to be part of something that's bigger than you. So I'm just going to say it unabashedly. I'm an American. It's awesome to be an American. I am part, and I still believe this. I know it's going to sound corny and cheesy to some people, but I am part of something that's bigger than me. But that doesn't take away the me, right? I still have my freedoms. I still have my rights. I just know that I'm part of something bigger. I don't have to give away any of my rights to be a part of that. So here, Redbeard, I guess I'm kind of throwing that out there because I know you're going to have some fun with what I'm about to say. We hear so many people today saying, oh, in order to to protect the children or for the betterment of society, you've got to give away your rights. That's not part of being something. That's not being part of something that's awesome and bigger than you. That's actually somebody hoodwinking you and lying to you to get you to be a slave, right? I don't have to give away a single one of my freedoms to Natasha's point to realize that I'm part of something bigger than me. And if I just give myself to that, and Natasha, I don't want to put the words in your mouth, but like the feelings and the value I get from that it's honestly hard to measure. It's so great. So before we go to Redbeard, Natasha, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that kind of summing up to some extent what you were saying?
Absolutely. You should not have to sacrifice your own personal life just for the betterment of society. I guess an example would be a really hot topic is gun rights. You know, everybody's saying on one side of the fence, oh, well, you should just give them up because of the betterment of the children. You know, society would be better off with them. One, that's just an impossibility. It's not going to happen. Two, to whose betterment? Nobody gives one valid argument that shows where me or anybody else giving up their rights to self-defense betters anybody else. It just empowers evil to be able to be more evil and to take advantage of the innocent. If anything, it creates more harm in society, in my opinion.
All right. Redbeard, coming back over to you, sir.
So I actually have some quotes here.
Sorry, I screwed something up. Give me a second, guys. There we go. All right. Now I'm still learning the software. I thought I could just go directly from Natasha over to you and the single. No, I had to come back to this view. All right, go ahead, sir.
It's a learning process.
It is. It is, right?
So I want to add two things in response to Natasha, which I think are actually going to supplement more than anything. So Natasha brought up, the idea of discipline and how it's always been understood to me is motivation is great. I think that if you can find something that's motivating to you, that pushes you to be better, that's fantastic. However, discipline is there for when motivation does not exist anymore. Discipline is a core foundation of being able to push through adversity and deal with problems and challenges as they come along. There's this idea of, oh, you have to build character, you have to do this, which I do believe that there is a realm of building, basically when in that saying, as I understand it, like you grow a spine, like harden, like I'm going to use a cheesy quote from
love cheesy quotes, do them all day. So use them all day long, sir.
So Mark, this is from the Tremors series, which if anybody understands what the Tremors series is, everybody knows who Burt Gummer is, and this is relevant. Burt Gummer had a quote that said, "You need to take a couple spoonfuls of cement and harden the fuck up."
Hey, for the record, in all fairness, you got to you and I have been on a weird Tremors conversation, side conversation kick for like a week now. So in all fairness,
it's fantastic. Highly recommend that people watch it. But no, that's he's not wrong though, right? Like, it's a very valid quote. Like, there's times to where it's like, even if in that moment, like, you don't have it, like, you got to dig down and find it. You have to do something to harden up, to discipline yourself, to get through those phases. Now, there was a discussion also about the common good or the public good. Well, there is a quote that I would like to bring forth about that by a man named Justice Blackstone. This individual was in the legal realm for quite some time, and it's a quote from him from 1765. And it basically goes something like this: "For it would be dangerous to allow any private man or even any public tribunal to be the judge of this common good, and to decide whether it be expedient or no. Besides, the public good is in nothing more essentially interested than in the protection of every individual's private rights." And there's a second portion to this that I would like to put out there, and I'll leave it for Natasha and Mark to respond to this. The second portion of this is, the more secure an individual's rights are, the more prosperous a community will be, the more liberty a community will have in which the public good is expanded. So it was recognized hundreds of years ago that in order for the public good to be preserved, that before all else, the rights of the people and of the individuals must be preserved for the public good to truly prosper, for it to expand, to it to grow. There is not a concerted effort in the public good when you start depriving these rights. So to that point, Mark and Natasha, I'd kind of like to hear what you have to say for that.
Well, one of the first things that came to my mind as you were saying that is, first and foremost, I mean, what is the distance between your rights and what we would define as character, or characteristics? What is it? Like a group of people who have a certain number of rights are going to be a group of people who then mature or evolve, and that's going to help define the characteristics or the character of those individuals. So to your point, I mean, like, if we talk about whether it's a movie character from Tremors, or if we just talk about who we are as men and women, as men, right? Kind of going back to our previous podcast, what is a man? Which, by the way, we obviously didn't do very good with, and we pissed some people off with that. We obviously pissed off the YouTube gods and Google, but it's still a legitimate question. Like, who are we as men? Yeah. If we can't sit there and say we're men of the West, to use that term, or we're men of America, American men, to Jeremy's point, this isn't taking it out of left field. This goes directly to his point. Those rights that we have help communicate and develop the traits or the characters, the morals that we have as men. Hey, I'm bound by duty. I'm bound by a sense of obligation and filial, and duty, or honor and courtesy and strength and wisdom. Like, these are the things then that help then shape the characteristics that, maybe they're broad stroke, because we're all a little bit different, and maybe you grew up in a different family or a different state or a different community. But generally speaking, we're all going to share some of these characteristics. They're going to be common: loyalty, duty, respect, Natasha brought this up, selfless service, that kind of stuff. So when I hear you talk about that, I think some people might say, well, he's just getting into your rights. No, those rights are still built. What is the foundation that helped establish what we should consider rights that everybody should have? Well, one of those characteristics is the thought that all men are created equal, and that there is a creator, and that the government doesn't give these to me. These are granted to me as just being a sapient human being, right? Natasha, I see you nodding down there. Let's bring it over to you there.
I was just nodding in agreement with you. Those rights are endowed by our creator. They're not endowed by government. Government, if anything, is endowed by us. It doesn't exist without us. And the fact that people endow government to be so powerful is just mind-boggling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then let me turn this over and turn it back on you guys. Let's just use Ukraine, for example, because we're talking about characteristics, your character, values, traits, ethics, that kind of stuff. And then, we just had a recent report, hey, the Pentagon just accidentally discovered an accidental accounting error that resulted in another $6 billion plus. It was over six. It was like 6.2 or $6.8 billion for Ukraine.
Oh, darn.
Well, hang on. What do you mean, oh, darn?
Just
you
like,
made that sound like, oh, shoot. Oh, gosh, we just found a bunch of money. I mean, what?
Darn it. Yeah. Oh, darn. We forgot about that.
Okay. All right. You were missing that part. Yeah. That from their perspective, like, oh, gee whiz, we screwed up. Oh, gosh.
If there was ever a reason to not pay taxes at this point, that's it right there. Like, dude.
Okay. So take that and then let's break that into like, it's a question of character. Like, do men and women of character make stupid mistakes? Let's be honest. That's not a mistake. If you're watching this podcast or if you're sharing this or whatever, if you think that was a mistake, that was an honest accounting mistake, come the F on, you got to get out from underneath your rock. So it really begs the question of what is the character? What is the moral? What are the ethics of that compose the people who are in charge, quote unquote, in charge of us right now?
Yep.
Natasha, do you see where I'm kind of going with this? Because that's bullshit. And we all know it's bullshit. So what does that say about us for not speaking out against it? Even, time the F out. There's no way you overlooked $6 billion, not million, $6 billion. And I'm supposed to just like, oh, okay, I guess we owe an accounting error.
Yeah.
Natasha.
The answer to that is there's no accountability. They shouldn't be allowed to exist.
Yeah.
And like to Jeremy's point, they shouldn't be allowed to recoup any kind of taxes until they stand accountable for their actions. They're just unaccountable.
Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right. They are not being held to account. They are unaccountable. But what does that say about the character of the people in these positions? To me, that's what I really want to get to the heart of. I want to present the American people and anybody watching this. I want to present the question to anyone watching this. What does it say about us, who we are collectively, whether you're from the Minnesota, whether you're from Texas, whether you're from
the UK, like some
I was going to say, exactly. Whether you're from Europe or Russia or China, what does it say? If you're from the planet Earth and this is acceptable to you, what does that say about who we are? What are the characteristics, the traits, the values that we're bringing to the table, or that we even hold dear in our hearts anymore? If, to Natasha's point, dude, that's total. They're not being held accountable. Well, what the hell does that say about us then? Redbeard.
Lack the strength and the courage to step up and do something about it.
I was speaking over you. Say that all over again, Natasha.
As a society, we are lacking the strength and the courage to step forward and do something about it. Collectively, I think there's a lot of individuals, ourselves included, are part of that. But there are more individuals who are not willing to they do not have the courage and they don't have the strength or the discipline to step forward and actually do something, whether it be hold their local politicians accountable, hold their government accountable, say, no, I'm not going to pay this money. I saw, she was I think it was IG the other day, this teenage girl, she had her first awakening to taxes and somebody paying her $500 on her OnlyFans. And then she had to pay taxes off of that money, whether it be shopping or putting it into her bank account and then putting it back on. The realization was just really, it was kind of amusing watching her come to this realization that, hey, why do I have to share this money so many times over again? But is she going to do something about it? Is anybody going to do anything about it? And I think that's the flagrant audacity of government right now, is that they know they can continuously do this. They can punk us and nobody's going to do anything about it. They're like, what are you going to do? Nothing. I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, and then are we not going to do anything about it because we've lost our way? We don't have the character, the strength, again, the strength of character to
Yep.
actually even speak out. So before I bring it over to Redbeard, totally again unscripted, but what Natasha just mentioned, she's talking about a young woman on Instagram, IG for those who aren't on Instagram. And so here's something that I just saw on Instagram. So again, I run a small business, so unfortunately I'm on Instagram, right? I have to be, right? That's how you advertise. That's how you try to connect with customers. That's how you let people know who you are. That's how you let people know your character, right? Because my business is me, right? Who I am, that is directly reflected into my business. So I was on Instagram the other day and I saw a little thing, and it was from the UK. And I'm not picking on the UK, but I mean, we see a lot of these type of examples coming from, unfortunately, a lot of different places, but a lot from UK and Australia and America too. I mean, we're not exempt to this, but my point here is going to what Natasha said. You're talking about, this person like, oh my gosh, I have to share this money with people. What I saw was these two, I think they were 13 or 14-year-old girls, and they're arguing with the teacher. And it was all about the gender identity thing. And someone in their class was identifying as a cat. And they were.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. Seriously, God bless those two young girls. They held their ground. They, at 13 years old, have more character, more like oomph in their thumbs than a lot of adults do. They held their ground. They're like, no, this is absurd. This is insane. She's not a cat. Oh, well, who are you? And the teacher is just berating these young girls and trying to pressure them. And then, I taught a class on terrorism yesterday to these law enforcement students. I teach this once or twice a year. And these type of things come up, but like by definition, what the teacher did is at a minimum, it's a terroristic threat. What she did, it doesn't maybe fall into the overall, arching umbrella of terrorism. Right. And I'm not going to get into a discussion on that, because there's multiple facets of terrorism: transnational, domestic, international, state-sponsored, But at the minimum, because the teacher represents the use of force and violence, right? Like expulsion, detention, that's force, right? And she's trying to coerce these two girls to go along with her perception or the idea or the notion that she wants everybody to go along with. And the two young girls, to their credit, had a huge character. They're like whoever the parents of these two young girls are, and their friends and their family members, relatives, God bless each and every one of them, because these girls stood their ground. They're like, that's absurd. She's not a cat. She's a female. Well, you can't say, and then without getting into that, but because we're just talking about character. But these two young women, these two girls, had the character of will, the strength of will to say 2 + 2 does not equal potato, ma'am. 2 + 2 = 4. And I don't care what you're saying to me. I'm not going to just roll over and go along with it because you want me to say 2 + 2 = potato. That's bullshit. Redbeard, I know you were laughing about that, so I'm going to bring it.
No. So I'm going to kind of take it a little away, but still to the point here. And Mark, you brought up the what was it, the 6.2 billion, and
oh gosh,
I just want people to understand, like, if you haven't figured it out that this is a habit, I highly suggest that you look at how much money was just like magically vanished in and around the 24 hours of 9/11. And I know that some people are excessively sensitive when it comes to 9/11. But can we just agree that you don't lose that much money by accident? And can we just kind of?
Well, hey, Jeremy, before you go any further, no, I'm going to back you up on this. Like, I don't know exactly where you're going to go with this, but here, it's the character. Who are we as people? Like, who I am as a person, I believe in truth and I believe in justice, right? These are traits. So to Jeremy's point, this isn't an argument about conspiracy or whatever the case is, but it is an argument to the extent that if a building is destroyed, how does 40, what was it, Jeremy? You know the number. Like,
it was like an absurd, it was like, I think it was close to like $1 trillion or something. Like, it was a massive
just
amount of time
disappears.
just-
Yeah.
and-
Oh,
and
we
it's
don't know
like-
what happened to that. What? Why? Because a building was destroyed?
Well,
So
it-
a character
yeah.
trait that I would ascribe to every American, man and woman. This isn't a
Yeah.
gendered thing. This isn't a male versus female. You're an American. I think a trait, a characteristic of our ancestors would have been like, you should question authority. Like,
Yeah.
hey, hang on a second, time out. Because you're basically, that's the 2 + 2 = potato. Like,
You talk
mean
about
to
math
tell me
and
because a building was destroyed, I suddenly don't know where $40 billion went or whatever.
Yeah.
And seriously, do your own research. Jeremy's
Yeah.
not a shit ton of money suddenly disappeared.
Yeah, I don't
because a
remember the
building was
valuation,
destroyed.
but
I don't know how that works. Maybe I'm an idiot. I'm a caveman.
Well,
I don't know.
And to that point, Mark, like, so you bring up like the idea of questioning authority, and that's not only like a character trait that I think that has been, exercised for a long time, but it's also one of those. It's kind of one of those things our founders expected of us as people of this country, right? Like, and the idea that is a preventative measure to tyranny. Beyond that, I think that the 2 traits that I would ascribe to that, as well as something else I'm going to delve into here in a second, is look, honesty and integrity. Like, they can't even be honest to you about the money situation, which leads into, can they be honest to you about what really happened on 9/11? Can they be honest to you about how they magically just found 6.2 billion just happening to lay around? And furthermore, if it gets even worse than that, right?
Damn right.
Where is the degree of honesty and integrity as it pertains to, and we've talked about this before, but the talking points that are involved in a situation like Ukraine, right? Where is the honesty in saying we have provided the best training, the best tools that the West can possibly offer? There's no way that this new offensive could fail. And now you have, you have people that were on that side that fundamentally agreed with that talking point, and now they're just like, yeah, no, like this this ain't it. Like, we can't support this lie anymore because it literally lost its base in the past 2 weeks. But at the same time, you still have people like Petraeus and many other people that are like, no, this is fine. Once they get these F-16s, they'll win 100%. It's like, at what point of delusion are you going to take the American people down and convince them that something is winnable when it's not? That's a dangerous precedent that if we get involved into another conflict or another war, are you going to lie about how bad it is on the ground? And to me, that's a huge character flaw.
Yeah, don't take us too far down that rabbit hole. I mean, it's a good rabbit hole to go down, and it's one that everyone should.
My point is it's dangerous. It sets a very dangerous precedent.
Well, so I want to take it back just one step because I don't want it to be lost. That was a great freaking statement, but I want to take it back one step so we don't lose focus of what you were really saying, and then I'm going to bring it over to Natasha. So the real issue, if I understood you correctly, there is as a characteristic of because what you are talking about are you're talking about our leaders, the people who we're supposed to be able to put our faith into. We're supposed to believe they're supposed to be at a level of, characteristically speaking, and you talked about honor and integrity. They're supposed to be the people. We are electing the best of us to represent us, and the best of us aren't supposed to lie or mislead us. But you're using an example where it's like, well, how can I even believe you anymore? And you just gave a whole bunch of examples. So and you used Ukraine very adroitly to prove that point. Yeah. But I want to come down to Natasha here before she falls asleep in her PJs or whatever the hell she's doing down there. Like, do you got a hot cocoa, Natasha? Are you okay? I mean, yeah. Oh. You do notice, you see on my thing, I'm the only drinker in this group. So you guys are drinking coffee and shit, but without taking us, too far down that rabbit hole. Natasha, do you see what Redbeard was saying? And like, I think you do. Can you add, and it doesn't matter if it's adding specifically to what we're being told about Ukraine and how that pertains to so many other things, but just in the general sense of who we even are, because the way I interpreted Redbeard's comments had a lot to do with there's no honor and integrity. There's no honor and integrity. It seems to me there's very little of that left in any of our elected officials.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to add to it or subtract from it. I have probably a very extreme opposing viewpoint on leadership and what that means. I don't think that any of the people that are in quote unquote leadership are leaders to begin with. Also, I'm not one who really considers myself somebody who needs to be governed. I do a pretty good job of governing myself. I think that I live my life with honor and integrity in all of my actions. At least I do my best. I am not God, but I do make mistakes, but I do my best to be a good, decent human being and live with that moral code. I don't look around me to my left and to my right and see people that I consider to be leaders or somebody that I would look up to as a mentor or somebody that I can learn from. So if they're nobody that I can learn from and that I respect, I'm not going to consider them worthy of such a position in a government role. I really don't even see the need for government. There's people out there who do need government, and those are the people that are out there breaking laws and running havoc, and yeah, they do need to be governed. But I'm not one of those people, and I don't need to give them 30% of my paycheck in order for them to harass me.
Yeah.
I'm smiling right now, and I just got to interject. I so want Natasha to go on a rampage. I can sense. It seems she's getting all cuddly in her corner there and whatever, but I sense a fury underneath the water, just right underneath the water. And what you just made me think of is, and I love the movie Last Mohicans, but I love it. It's like with the British officer is at the farmstead and he's trying to tell everybody what to do. And, Nathaniel says, something to the effect, I might not get this 100% correct, but he's like, you should be looking after your own scalp and not be telling us what to do with ours. That goes to what Natasha just said. I absolutely fucking love that. And I think that is a characteristic or a character trait that our ancestors wanted us to still have to this day. In other words, what I really liked about that is like, I have no respect for the vast majority of politicians in America. They're all crooked. They're all corrupt. I mean, we all know that. It doesn't matter if there's an R or a D by the name. Like most of them are D bags. I mean, and look at how wealthy they suddenly become. Like those aren't the characteristics or the character or quality traits that I want to have somebody represent me. So to Natasha's point, and I'll bring it over to you, Jeremy. It's like, then why are we even listening to these people? I mean, think about it. Like the power comes from me actually listening to you and doing what you're telling me to do. Like, no, screw you. I don't know how you got elected to office, but I'm just ignoring you because you're an idiot and you are a horrible, loathsome human being who represents everything that I oppose. So here, I'm going to use a military thing and then I'll bring it to Jeremy. When I was in the military, we had this thing, leadership. And when you went through your military schools, and back then it was PLDC, primary leadership development course, basic non-commissioned officer leadership course, advanced, BNOC or PLDC, BNOC, and ANOC. It's called different things now because, people with bad character traits got in charge and then they whatever. Anyway, but leadership, loyalty, leadership was an acronym. Leadership, LDR, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, leadership. What Natasha just said, I challenge it. Leave a comment below. Tell me a political figure in America today. I can maybe think of three. That represent any of the characteristics that I hold dear to my heart, that I ascribe to, and I try to be as a man. Redbeard, bringing it back to you.
Yeah. So
that was my rant right there, which Natasha started. She started with that grenade she just threw in the room.
And to add to that, I mean, it further begs the question why more people, don't. So I'll put it like this, right? So instead of if people are really into the voting thing and if they really feel like they want to pick which master they want to have rule over them, so be it. But if you're going to do that, right? If you're going to be a part of that dynamic, then in the very least, and we've talked about this before, do your research and evaluate the characteristics, the qualities and the principles of the candidates that you're gonna scribble their name on a ballot, because you have to remember that I would beg to say that since I don't know, around World War II up until now, there have been incessantly an overwhelming amount of people within this government that have had no problem in beating the war drums and willing to send other people to die. To me, you're, pardon my French, but you're a fucking coward if you're not going to go fight in the war that you want to make happen so bad. And if you're not going to lead by example, if you're not going to send your sons and daughters to go fight this war with everybody else's sons and daughters, then to me, your character is not even in question as so much to the point that you have no character. You're devoid of character. You're devoid of any moral compass, because what it comes down to is you don't care at all for anything except other than what can benefit you. And so in the end of the day, I mean, I guess you could say that's maybe greed. But in the end of the day, it's like, look, be wary of people, take an evaluation, and if they're banging the war drums, that's when I would start to heavily question what their motivations are.
Well, and then going back to what we were saying
Yeah.
earlier, is if somebody is not willing to, again, put their money where their, you know, their,
Yeah.
you know, their mouth is, you know, or their mouth where their money is, however you want to say that,
Yeah.
right? If somebody's not willing to step up and say, you know, again, pick on any politician, almost every politician in, you know, in either chamber, the House or the Senate,
Yeah.
or any president, how many of those people are willing to get into the ring? Well, now this is going to sound biased, and I don't know how true this is, but I just saw this other day, and it was a breakdown of the presidents since Bush all the way to now. And if you look at, you know, how much money, and they threw in a couple senators in there as well, but this is something that's out there, and you do your own research and figure it out. And even if this is only 50% true, it's still a glaring discrepancy, and it goes into this question of morals, you know, values, you know, ethics, the character of who you are as a person. But for every president from Bush on, and this is Bush the junior, not Bush the senior. So if you extended it to Bush senior and then Clinton, I bet it's even worse, because they did look at the Clintons, but they looked at the Clintons writ large, you know, both of them together.
Yeah.
And you look at how much their net value was before they got into office, and then their net value after office. The only person in office during that period of time, and again, I'm not promoting him. I'm not saying anyone should vote for him. I'm not saying he's a good guy, if this is even true. Just saying it is a glaring discrepancy. Trump is the only person who was the president and who lost money. Yeah. Everybody else's net value, I mean, we're not even talking doubled or tripled. We're talking, you know, the Clintons' net value of a couple $1 million, and then now they're suddenly $200 to $300 million. Dude, we're talking, that's a factor of, you know, that's a factor of 100 or 200, depending on, you know, the person. That says something of the character of the individuals who are running for office today. And that's something that should, to anybody who has any sense of character, of morals and value, and again, whether it's dignity, you know, integrity, honesty, that should scare and that should really be a call to action. And then, so I'm going to stop right there, because I had another question thunder, but I'm going to stop right there. Let's come to Natasha. Natasha, is anything that Redbeard and I just said, like, respond to it or go in your own direction, but you see what we're kind of talking right now.
So you guys, something that resonated with me was actually sound lyrics to one of my favorite bands, Clutch. The song is DC Sound Attack, and it starts off, it says, the optics of it are not important. The public don't give a damn. I see you're in need of consultation now. Everybody needs a sinister hand. Naturally no sympathizer. I'm a warmonger, baby. Gonna industrialize ya. Trouble I love. Peace I do despise. I'm a warmonger, baby. I got blood in my eyes, and I'm talking to you, or looking at you. I've never worn no uniform except for the ballroom blitz. There's no need for conversation here. I prefer the dimmest intelligence. Naturally, no sympathizer. I'm a warmonger, baby. It goes on and on. If you haven't heard the song or listened to the lyrics, I suggest you go do it. It's probably the theme song for today's conversation.
Well,
And
hey,
it
I
talks
tell you what.
about-
So if you send me a link or just give me the name of the band, the song, I'll find like some type of video on YouTube or something. I'll put a link into the comments.
Yeah.
All right, but continue. I'm just saying we'll make that happen because I've never heard that before, but I like it so far.
It summarizes exactly what we're talking about. These people, they are up in their ivory towers on their pedestals thinking that they're leaders. They are profiting off of the backsides of real people who are out there working and earning their keep in society. These are some of the most laziest, incompetent people that we have holding superiority over the rest of us. And I don't understand why. Like, who are they? You know, they say,
and that's the question. Well, how is that? That is the question. Sorry to interrupt you, because have we lost our way? Do we not have the character, the moral fiber to call these people out? Because look, to their credit, if we're stupid enough to let them get away with it, like it's evil on their part. But if you're going to let me keep doing it and there's no ramifications, no repercussions, then why would an evil person would just keep doing it? Wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're
Natasha,
not.
you're still full screen. I'm sorry, I just was chiming in on that. But right, why wouldn't they just keep doing that? If we're stupid enough to let them do it, they obviously don't have the characteristic to stop. So why would they stop?
Nobody's put them in check. Nobody's checked them. They're allowed to just run flagrantly wild and do whatever they want. Nobody's putting them in check. Nobody's doing anything about it. Yeah, people want to say that Trump did a lot about it. Let's face it. Trump is and this is my own. Gosh, I said I wasn't going to do this. Trump is a fiscal conservative. He's a Democrat first. His moral principles are. Pardon me.
No, we both agree with it. Yeah, he's He is a fiscal conservative, but he is a Democrat. He's not a Republican. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
How is it going? Trump is the one who is all about what's in it for me. And let's face it, a lot of us voted for him because he's the lesser of two evils. Why should we be put in a position of voting for the lesser of two evils? Evil is evil. I don't want any of them. I don't care who they are. Trump, he led the way for gun confiscation, or for where we're at right now with bump stocks. He's horrible for the Second Amendment. If you are pro-Constitution, you are not pro-Trump. And I don't understand why all of these people continuously fight for him, just because we've been beaten up so badly right now by this last administration that it's like, okay, I've gone through pain. Give me relief. I need some relief from all of this. I'd rather go back to the way it is. Well, that's how they control us. That's how they control you. People don't see what's happening to them because they're so caught up in, the hamster wheel of constantly churning out the money for this machine for all of these warmongers that they're doing absolutely nothing about it. And they're just sitting there and taking their lashes. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Redbeard, give me a second. I got to bring it over. Dude, your responses and chuckles were louder than Natasha's commentary. So you take it, sir. You obviously, are you crying right now? Go ahead.
No, people might really hate me for what I'm about to say, but Trump is to conservatives, Republicans, and many individuals that may or may not ascribe to liberty as javelins, HIMARS, and F-16s are to the Ukrainians. They go out with a glorious fizzle and pop because they're the next super weapon that doesn't make a difference.
Well, I guess that was funnier in your head. I get the analogy. It's like, putting all your faith into one thing, and one thing isn't as good as you thought it was.
Look, it's in the end of the day, Mark, like, let's be honest, the amount of cult-like worship that followed him is the amount of delusion that a person like General Petraeus says, oh, this is they can still win. No, sir. They've been losing very, very badly for the last 2 weeks. And people with Trump, and I don't hate the guy, But if we're looking at this objectively, and if it's any reflection to the character of a nation, let's go to that song "Cult of Personality." We all know that song, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're putting all this faith into one person when we are the solution. So where does, you know, ignorance is abound as it pertains to evaluations of character, and it's, you know, like it's not, as soon as somebody's hyped up, or as soon as something gets too much hype and you're not questioning it, there's massive problems. It's gonna fizzle.
So just and I'm sorry, I'm still kind of interrupting you, but as you were saying that, I just had a moment of clarity. Just think of what our culture, American culture, or maybe even say Western culture, but look at what's happened in the last, you know, some people would say 20 years. Honestly, take it back all the way to the 60s. This has been going on. So this is like 70 years. And we continue to degrade, demolish, destroy, you know, and I would argue to our detriment as human beings, that individual spirit that Jeremy, that you're alluding to. I think the answer is because unfortunately, so many of us either just don't give a shit or we don't know any better anymore. And I think that has been that mindset, or it's either been programmed into us or it's been stripped out of us. We don't have the sense of, no, I'm my own sovereign man, you know, and by man, I mean human. I don't care if you are female. No, I mean a human being. You are your own sovereign. But then to Natasha's point, but that doesn't mean you're a selfish, egotistical son of a, you know, like, no, as my own sovereign person, I realize I have all these rights and these freedoms, and those were granted to me by a creator, a God, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what religion it is, but this isn't something that's given to me by Redbeard or Natasha. These are things that I'm born with. I'm endowed with, right? I have as my natural right. Because again, I'm an animal. I'm a human. I have a right to defend myself. If someone says, well, you don't have a right to own a weapon, well, then how am I going to defend myself against a grizzly bear? Well, you know, well, that's different. Well, really, a grizzly bear will kill me quicker than a human being. Well, but a human being could kill me just as easily as a grizzly bear. So what do you mean? I have the right to defend myself against a grizzly bear, but only to a certain degree? Like, no, you don't get to tell me that shit. You know, like, so I think what I just kind of realized is that there has been a master plan at play for a long time. And I know there's probably going to be some people, and if you're one of them, leave a comment like, hey, Mark, welcome to the party, pal. Like, no, this has been going on for a long time. We are being stripped of these qualities, these characteristics. You know, we don't even believe in family anymore. You know, there are states that are saying that if your parents don't go along with this bullshit, we reserve the right to take the child away from the parents. So to Natasha's point on my little diatribe, if you see where I'm going, Natasha, and maybe take it, you know, in the direction you want to go with it, but that's exactly what is transpiring right now. We no longer have the, call it backbone, character, whatever. We're not even willing to stand up for things that we know are right, that we know we should be standing up to, or we should be speaking out against. I don't know if I just brought both of your conversations, if that made any sense to anybody who's watching this, or if I'm just in my brain, it makes sense right now. You know, I don't know, but you know, maybe I should just be quiet. Natasha, bringing it over to you.
Well, I'll just bring it back full circle on what I was expecting to discuss this evening was, what is a man? Well, right there is what a man is. A man knows how to have the discipline, the moral strength and character to stand up and do what's right. And I'm sorry, voting for Trump, voting for Biden, voting for any of these people who want to govern us and steal our money and take away our civil liberties is not being a man.
I would agree with that. Well, but here, flesh that out, because here, so for everybody watching here, I'm going to bring it back to the group screen. So yeah, tonight's episode was supposed to be part 2 of what it means to be a man. And we made an audible because, well, that video wasn't met with, you know, it wasn't received very well. I'm sure the YouTube gods didn't want it to be, you know, they broke the algorithm, you know, and blah, 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 blah. Woe is us, right? You know, I go to another characteristic, you know, like suck it up, buttercup, and figure out a way to make it work. So Natasha came into this thinking, you know, she's busy. She's got a life. we just barely spoke for a brief moment, and then there was the pregame, and there was the video. And Jeremy and I had called an audible. We wanted to really talk about, take it from what does it mean to be a man to mean what does it mean to be a human, right? What are the characteristics that define us? And so, to that point, though, Natasha, you're saying, what you think, it's the same type of, it's still the same conversation. It's still the same argument. You're basically saying that in your view as a human, as a woman, as an American, however you want to layer that, is that men do these certain types of things, correct?
They should, but they're not. Nobody's standing up for anybody nowadays. I find more women who have a bigger set than a lot of men, and it's just wrong. I shouldn't have to feel like I have to work so hard at protecting myself, protecting my community, doing any of the things that I do, because there should be more men out there. I never had to deal with this growing up. My father, he's my role model and my hero. The man is a man. He is, by all facts, what a man should be. And I don't see that around today. I see people posing as men, people pretending that they're men. I mean, you have, what's his face, Kennedy 2.0, claiming that, he's a service member and he's against guns and doesn't want people to be able to train. And he's a man. He doesn't want to be able to protect anybody. He doesn't want anybody to protect themselves. It's just crazy how our society has devolved instead of evolving.
Well, and I think that's what Jeremy and I, in our side conversations that we have all the time, and I think that's why we would call the audible, is it's so much bigger than just the question of what does it mean to be a man. The much larger question is who the hell are we? What are the character traits that we embrace, we believe in, we exude, we demonstrate in our day-to-day grind, and by our, by example, like the things that we do. Back in the day, it was lead by example, right? You don't sit there and bitch about something, you just fix it. And that is, and people would look at that and say, oh gosh, I was complaining about something at work today, and Natasha she didn't complain about it. She just went and did the thing that we all knew had to get done. And so to your point, I think from my subjective individual perspective, I agree with that. There's a lot of people I see spend more time and energy saying, oh, this is bullshit, or Johnny didn't do this and Susie didn't do that. I'm like, okay, bitching about it isn't going to fix it. Let's just fix it. And then we can, instead of bitching about it, let's address the issue with the other management or with Johnny and Susie, and let's resolve the situation. Most people nowadays, in my humble experience, would rather sit and just spend the time bitching about something as opposed to okay, but does that fix the problem? So that would, to me, to your point, as a man, that was something I grew up with as well. You can bitch about it, but you bitch about after you fix the problem. You identify there's a problem, identify what it is, come up with a solution, implement the solution, and then afterwards, as part of your after action review or lessons learned, that's where you get the chance to sit and bitch about it. Like, hey, Johnny, you're not doing your job, and you got to pick up the slack, because men don't shirk responsibilities or pass the buck to other people. That's not a characteristic of a man. Redbeard.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Pull your phrase, Mark.
Say again.
Talking ain't doing. I use that at work all the time. They hate me for it.
Well, I got that from a movie that I love, but that exemplifies it right there. Talking ain't doing. You're absolutely right. Well, we can sit and talk about afterwards. Right now, we need to do. And so, boy, that was funny that you just brought that up, because I think from a personal perspective, I mean, now more than ever in history, talking ain't doing. We've got to start doing things. I mean, I'm going to save my real thoughts on that for another episode. Let's turn it over, Redbeard. We're at an hour and 3 minutes.
So I think at least, because I think if we're gonna, are we thinking of, we're probably getting close to wrapping this up, right, Mark?
Well, we're at an hour and 3 minutes, hour, 4 minutes. I mean, let's see where this goes. But yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of said, I think everybody gets the message. I think right now would be finding each and every one of us, the three of us, find a final comment to help put, the icing on the cake or the cherry on the top, and then let's just wrap it up.
So
Because I think we've made our point for the most part. But there's so much more that could be said. Yes, Jeremy.
So I have only a couple things that I could put out there. So one, don't ever mistake movement for action. Just because somebody's moving around looking like they're doing shit doesn't mean that they actually are doing shit. So it's a quote I heard quite a while ago. I don't remember from where or from who, but don't mistake movement for action. A lot of people move around, but not a lot gets done.
A lot of movement lacks purpose.
Right. Yep. And so another thing that I kind of like to point out too is like, talking isn't on its face negative so long as it's something that's done with purpose and there's some follow through. So in saying that, I like to think of it this way: identify, plan, and execute. Right? Identify what the problem is, create a plan, and then execute that plan, and then figure out the way forward from there. One of the best sayings I heard too was actually today, where all a plan is just a list of everything that goes wrong.
So, you're laughing about that. I'm going to give you so for everybody watching, and if you watch me over on Centerline Systems, or if you're watching us here at Mission Critical, I love cinema. I actually do love movies. So Jeremy, maybe you've seen this movie before, maybe you haven't, but I'm throwing this out there for not just for Redbeard, not just for Natasha, but for everybody. It's a movie called The Way of the Gun. And there's a line in there where they say something very close to what you just said, Jeremy. And I've put this in my hip pocket the moment I heard it. A plan is just a list of things that doesn't get done.
Yep.
You still got to have a plan, but more often than not, once the plan meets reality, the plan just becomes a list of things that's never going to get done, because
it essentially gives you a bearing.
What's that?
It just gives you a bearing. It's more or less a metric or a bearing to kind of give you a direction. But beyond that, like any plan I've ever seen, usually about halfway in, it breaks down. So you have to like improvise, right? Like and
that's a character trait of men and women
improvise
who come from countries where they are taught and bred to be men and women of action. Like no crybabies, no snowflakes, no, oh my God, you misgendered me. You know what? We've got bigger fish to fry than your personal little, oh my gosh, somebody said something bad about me.
Then you got Tyson, his famous quote: "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." So
exactly.
Oh, God, high five to Natasha. Yes. Didn't see that coming. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love Mike Tyson. Matter of fact, Mike Tyson's mystery. What the hell is that called?
You just sent the knife hand there too. I saw that. That was
I did, but I'm trying to think of that. Mike Tyson has a cartoon. It's in Mike Tyson's mystery.
I know what you're talking about too.
It is fucking awesome. There, I just dropped an F-bomb. It's fucking awesome because at the end of every episode, they actually have Mike Tyson on camera, talking about shit. Yeah, Natasha, good pull right there. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah. Well done, Mr. Tyson. Well done, sir.
To add to that though, so how do you improvise and adapt and overcome that plan as it is a character trait? Get punched in the face once or twice and you'll know what it feels like, so you can actually get over that hump. That's why I always tell people, like, dude, whether it's jujitsu or some type of combative, like, get into it. If you want to build your confidence and build character at the same time, jujitsu or combatives is one of the greatest things, because one, you won't, it's not necessarily losing your fear, but you'll build confidence in a situation that's adverse. And then you'll learn how to plan your way through that altercation. And then you'll be able to improvise and adapt through that situation. So it's like, dude, you always have a plan until you get punched in the face, but the guy who's been punched in the face a couple times is going to be able to handle it a little bit better than you can. So
well, because they've developed a different set of character traits, and one of those would be resilience and adaptation.
As a female in security, I get asked by men who have female friends, how do I get her involved in security? I think this would be a good role for her. I think she's suitable. And I'm like, okay, well, how many times has she been punched in the face? And they're like, what? You know, where are you going with this? And I tell them, I'm like, realistically, how has she been tested? What kind of skills does she have? If you haven't been tested, you have no business being out there. It's not that you're going to roll into physical combat when you're out there in the field anyway, but you have to know how to handle it. You have to know how your body's going to react to it, how you're going to respond to whatever is going to happen. Have you ever been shot at? You know, these are questions that it happens out there in society. You've got to know, what are you made of?
Well, so here, let me just take it down. So when Natasha was just saying, you know, feeding on Redbeard, and I'm kind of trying to sober this a little bit, but I think their points are still incredibly salient, right? Look, not everybody lives a life where you are punched in the face or you are shot at. You know, like being shot at is pretty extreme, right? Because if your opponent is good at what they're doing, being shot at means you're going to die or you're going to be severely injured. And I don't wish that upon anybody, right? But I think Jeremy would back me up on this, and I think Natasha would as well. But you have to train and prepare for that because that's reality. That's real life. These might be extreme examples, but you know, so for whoever's watching this and think of the other people you know in your life or your family members or anything else, somebody's probably been in some form of conflict, and you know, and that could be an argument at the grocery store or an altercation in a parking lot or unfortunately real world combat, right? And which isn't cool. I mean, I know some people think that's cool. I don't think that's cool, but a character trait is to I think what Natasha, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm going to turn it back to you in a second, is to be prepared and train to that level. Because if it ever gets to that level, then you at least you've got an expectation, a realization of what this might be. And everything else below that, it's easy day, right? You don't get stressed out. You don't freak out. I'll just throw this out there, my last thing, and then I'll bring it over to you guys. In my day-to-day grind over here the last couple months, I've unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, it's two sides of the same coin. I've been around some people who clearly have never been stressed out in their lives before. And the smallest thing freaks them out. And I'm just like, you know, another stupid saying I have is like, hey, dude, it's okay. There's four walls, a roof. It's not raining. No one's trying to kill us. No one's shooting at us. This is a small issue. We can figure it out. Just don't freak out. That's another, I think, character trait that is either intentionally or unintentionally, it doesn't matter to me, but is being stripped away from the humanity, whether we're an American, whether you're from Europe, whether you're from Asia. It seems to keep the powers to be keep wanting to break this away from who we are as humans, who we are, family units, countries, whatever it is. And now everybody freaks out over the slightest thing. That's not a good character trait. That is not, in my opinion, that is not characteristic of who we used to be as Americans, or as human beings. And then on that note, that's my final comment here for tonight. You guys, again, training to standards, not to time. We're at an hour and 10. Who wants to take it next? I mean, in reality, if you guys just want to make final comments, if that's how we want to do it, let's come to Natasha, and then we'll come to Redbeard for the outro. But if you guys want to keep talking for a little bit, then whoever wants to be next. What do you guys want to do?
I think we've said what we say. The only thing I would add is if that's
all right. So we're coming to you. Hang on a second, Natasha. There you go. Full screen.
That may be their goal, you know, survival of the fittest. Maybe they are looking to eliminate all of the weakest links that are in society. So all of these people that don't have the moral character, the strength, the fortitude to step forward and do something about it, maybe those are the people that do need to be eliminated because they're not the best of us and they're only bringing us down. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's a possibility of where the powers that be are seeing it. I doubt it because they can't control people like us. They'd rather have people that they can control. So I have no idea to what you were saying there, why we have people who lack such strength and character that they can't step forward and do anything about it. But we do need awakening, and we do need those people either to step up to the plate or to lower their voice and stop being at the forefront because they really don't have anything of value to say. So be somebody who's got something valuable and something that's going to resolve the situation or step down, take a knee.
Wow, that was pretty
Yeah.
powerful. I like that right there. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
that's solid.
Get in the ring and get in the fight, or get the fuck out of my way.
Yeah.
That was a cruder way of saying, see, characters and like, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. Like, Natasha said the same thing, but I think she just said it more eloquently than what I just did at the very end. Redbeard, coming back over to you. Natasha, close it, because I think if we come to you, Redbeard, it's going to be final comments and then the outro. Natasha, let's give you one more chance to any, even if it's not where we were just going for that stream of conversation. Anything you want to add here before we kick it over to Redbeard?
I think I said what I needed to.
Do you have anything that you didn't need to say that you want to say?
I'll probably think of it afterwards, and you'll tell me.
Yeah, it'll come up in the AR afterwards. You're like, oh, I wish I would have said that.
Yeah, and I feel like that normally happens with every single guest we have on here, or the one or two times that it's just been me and Mark, and then unfortunately we go on a 2-hour tangent, and neither of us get sleep. So
yeah. So for the record, what we're referencing here is, even though the podcast is going to end in a couple seconds, we'll all talk on the phone afterwards, and we'll do our after action review, what went well, areas for improvement, that kind of stuff. And sometimes that turns into like, because I'm the only one who drinks, it'll turn into like, oh, let me make another drink and smoke a cigar, and then 2 hours later we're still bullshitting. We're like, why wasn't that in the podcast?
Yeah.
All right, that was a little inside baseball. What happens? Hey, Redbeard, my only request for you as we turn it over to you and start wrapping this up is, please, somewhere before you do your outro, let's do the question for the giveaway. As you're talking, I'm going to bring you full screen. I'm going to grab the giveaway one more time, but I'm going to get you to full screen, because you still got your final comments and things you want to say before we do the outro.
Yeah,
but before you do the outro, I'll bring everybody back into this view right here, and then we'll do the giveaway one more time.
So right. I'm just going to keep it pretty simple and concise, right? Like, so obviously it's been harped on, have integrity, be honest, have a sense of honor, have a set of principles and in some moral direction, and just be a genuinely good person. And Mark and I have talked about this several times, but I'm going to bring it up because I don't think it can be harped on enough. But it's important that we should never go out of our way to look for conflict. Conflict is nasty. It's just, it's messy. It creates a lot of different things that are undesirable. And if we can be diplomatic in our lives, and find a reasonable sense of resolution between ourselves and somebody else, or being more diplomatic and reasonable as people of a nation, to come to solving things before we get to a point of contact or kinetic juncture, then I believe that's the best way of doing that. Because honestly, like, as much as it is as it fits into a realm of character of being able to actively and kinetically defend yourself, I also believe that good character is enshrined in being diplomatic and being able to be a reasonable person, to be able to settle disputes, to be able to talk to people and come to conclusions that are going to be beneficial not only for yourself but for the other parties if possible. It doesn't always work out that way, and I understand that, but you have people that rush away from that level of diplomacy because either it's greed or there's some other type of thing to be gained from that. And I think that's lacking in character if you're not going to try and do that. And on that point, whether it's us as an individual or as a group of people or whatever the case is, I believe 110% in the idea that we should be peaceful, but we should not be harmless. I believe that people should be dangerous. I believe that we should have the capacity of violence, but we need to be peaceful and diplomatic, and we need to be able to exhaust all means before we get to that point, because it should never be the first thing you jump to. That to me is what is a determining factor in character, and whether or not it's positive character or negative character. But we should not be defenseless. We should have a capacity for that, and we should not be harmless individuals. So peaceful, not harmless, I think is a huge thing.
I'm just gonna chime in there. Like, so Jeremy and I talk all the time, and I know I'm a part of this podcast, but if you just listen to what he said, and if that didn't tug at your heartstrings, and then maybe you're dead inside. Maybe you're a cyborg. I don't fucking know. But like that was it right there, brother. I'm not even trying to downplay what you said. Like maybe I'm trying to make it a little bit humorous, so like people don't start crying or whatever right now. But like no, but that's it. I mean, that should put a tear in your eyes, because that is who you should be. Jeremy, I think you just did such a fucking awesome job of saying that. Like, yeah, that's who I want to be as a man. Yeah, like I'm peaceful, but the moment you start breaking my shit, brother, it's 180 degrees in the other direction, and I'm gonna fuck you up.
And I think and to your point, like I just think that peaceful, not harmless, being capable of being dangerous and being violent also comes with the idea that that's the least, or that's the last thing you want to do, because those people, I feel, have the greatest respect for humanity and fellow humans, because you understand that there's a ripple effect to that. It's not just this happens, you walk away and nothing happens. Like there's a lot that once you get to that point, there's no reverse. There's no taking it back. There are permanent implications until we are buried. And so like, and we talked about this, Mark, like for me, the prospect of going to war or being in a confrontation in the grocery store where somebody comes up and is aggressive, like, look, anybody who thinks that that's like, it's go time, like this is it, like, dude, you're fucked up. I'm sorry, but like that is, if you devalue life to that much that it's not a big deal, dude, you got to go get some help, right? Like anybody who has no valuation for human life, whether and Mark, we talked about this, even if it's your enemy, there's a certain level of they have value to some degree, right? Like there is some value, maybe not to us, but to somebody else. And so there's something there that should make you put some thought into what you're going to do. That's why I say peaceful, not harmless, because it's more than just that. It's super easy to give somebody a gun to tell them to go do something, but is that what we really want to lead with? Is that how we want to, especially as countries, do we really want to continue down this path of faux diplomacy to where we lead with the military instead of a diplomat that's like, hey, we don't want to get here, but
hey, or before you even go to the diplomacy part, what about just combatants? Like if I have to go to war against you, right? If I have to fight you, I'm going to do everything in my power to win, right, and to survive. But I'm not. But in Jeremy, you and I have talked about this, and I think you even brought it up in some of the other videos. But I'm not going to demean or debase or lie about who you are. I can still respect you and still, and fight you, and I'll fight you with 100% every fiber of my being. Mm-hmm. But once that moment has passed, or that situation or the situation dictates, I can still treat you with the respect of a fellow human being. I can still respect the fact that, hey, you believe in your cause as strongly as I do, or you're willing to defend your homeland as strongly as I'm willing to defend my homeland. But there's a certain point then when it's like, but I'm still going to treat you with the respect that in my opinion, and who I am as a man and the character that I think I bring to the table, I'm going to give you the respect and the dignity of you're a human being who I may have just defeated, but that doesn't take away from who you are as a person. I can still I can still find a place in my heart to understand and maybe empathize with that plight, and that maybe helps us bridge the gap and maybe overcome a future war or make this last conflict somehow easier for both sides to digest, because even the victor has to digest the horrors of war. I mean,
there's still consequences. And that, and on a final note to that, I'd like to remind people of, the Germans and the Americans who came together during Christmas.
I think Germans and Brits. I think it was the Germans and the Brits.
There was
you're talking a different story.
Yeah,
I
there's two
Sorry.
there's two stories, one from World War II and one from World War One. But
Yep.
Sorry. It's like I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it. That's the shit that our bureaucrats don't want happening, is men realizing that the other side's men. The other side are people. The other side, people that on those occasions
they have
laid down their
families,
arms,
loved ones, and children, and
they
everything.
laid down their arms, they related with each other. That the language barrier wasn't even a thing. It's just they found common things and they did stuff. And look, like, they want you to dehumanize people the way that they did the Japs, the way that they did so many other people in my opinion, grotesque ways. Why? Because they want you to kill on behalf of what they want you to do. Like, there's a whole thing about World War II that I could get into that would be very unpopular. Mark already knows where I would go with this, but that's for another podcast or another episode, because it really merits its own thing. But look, peaceful, not harmless. That's all I'm gonna say. So on that,
well, hang on. So before you go any further, because God bless you, I already want to start responding to a lot of the things you said, but that is a completely different podcast.
I gave myself goosebumps. God damn it.
Okay, good. Let's bring it over to Natasha. Natasha's probably like sitting there all cuddly and cozy. She's like, who in the fuck are these guys? And how am I on this podcast? Natasha, let's bring it over to you. Any final comments? And then Jeremy, once Natasha's done, let's remind everybody about the contest, and then you do the outro. Natasha, you get final comments after that diatribe and that rant we just did.
I don't think it was that at all. I think you gentlemen did a wonderful job of explaining everything. If I was to just, I guess, touch up the icing on the cake, I would say that have the propensity to commit violence and the discipline to control it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know how to flick that switch. That's what I always like to say. You got to be able to know how to turn flip the switch and go to 10, and then turn the switch off and coming all the way back down to 0 or 3, whatever it is. But yeah, you have to have that discipline, and that's a character trait, right? And that goes into characteristics that apparently we're all lacking nowadays. All right, Jeremy, remind everybody of the contest, and then take us out, sir.
All right. So the contest question, or the contest, is for this fabulous piece of hardware here. As Mark
Q5 custom Kydex, baby.
That's right. So basically, you get to take your little GAT, slap it in there, and it even has a nice little area for your magazine as well. So you don't have to just have a firearm without a companion. You can have a companion with your firearm too. And on that note, as he's showing you all of the fantastic features and furniture of this wonderful item, the question that I posed
that shit locks in there really good. You see how that isn't just going to fall out. That wasn't exaggerated. That shit's in there really good.
Retention there.
Wait, will it hold if you do a backflip like the FBI agent?
What's that?
I know what you're talking about.
I didn't catch it. What did you say, Natasha?
Will it hold if you do a backflip like that FBI agent who was dancing and did a backflip and lost his gun because he didn't have proper retention?
I haven't seen that video, and B, I can't do a backflip. so I mean, no. I almost feel like, are you making fun of my current medical situation? I can't do a backflip. What are you doing to me?
Jeremy,
this is purely retention based.
Yep.
Well, look, you just saw me. Like, I'm here to tell you, this thing has got serious retention. You just saw me even struggling with that shit. I mean, like, this isn't. So if you could do a backflip, you probably could do a backflip, and maybe it would depend on like the clothing you were wearing and how, like, like, I'm here to tell you, there's 2 front hooks. This is going to hook around, and then there's a little. They got a name for this thing. I can't remember what they call it, but it kicks out and it actually moves your clothing a little bit so it doesn't print as much. This thing doesn't print at all. And then that also helps in the retention. So Natasha, to your question, I think a ninja could do a shit ton of flips and they would not lose either the magazine or the handgun.
That's fantastic.
So but I can't do any of those, and I'm not a ninja. So, but thanks for making me feel bad because I can't even barely walk.
It was a joke. No. A bad one.
On that note, the question.
All right, take us out, sir.
The question for that beautiful piece of hardware,
Damn right.
The training block not included. I must make that disclaimer.
No, you do not get my cert pistol. You just get the holster.
Neither the
Correct.
cert
Thank you,
pistol,
Jeremy, for being specific. Thank you.
yes, neither the cert pistol nor the magazine included are not included with the holster, albeit if you would like those, I'm sure Mark would be able to point you to the company that does make those. But
that's what you
there's
get.
the holster.
Well, and you do get the little Loctite and the extra
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So the question is, of the 5 fundamental documents that led up to our Constitution, what was the first document of the 5? Of the 5 fundamental documents that led up to the design of our Constitution, what was the very first document of the 5? So you can leave your comments down below. I highly encourage you to do a little cheaty cheat, go on Google, take a look, do your due diligence. And those of you who provide the right answer, as well as a little bit of elaboration, if you will, or, you know, Mark likes some good humor, so throw something in there. And if it makes him giggle, you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, and we will sift through these after a while, and we will let the winner know who won. So best of luck to everybody, and I look forward to seeing the answers.
I'm going to give you my answer offline because I don't want to embarrass myself. I think I actually know the answer. I think I got it. Honestly, I think I do. But I'm going to reserve my answer until when we do our AAR.
Yeah.
But yes, leave a comment below. And as Jeremy pointed out, it isn't just the answer, because you could Google this right now and figure it out. You got to add some additional commentary, or you've got to like turn it into something that pertains to today's era, or you've got to add a joke in there that makes me kind of giggle. So one of those 3. Yep.
So, all right.
Yeah. And then if you do that, though, the winner, T5 Custom Kydex, great company, American made company, great freaking Kydex holsters. It's yours. Woo woo.
Look, that's a banging deal. Everybody.
Oh, it's a damn good deal. I mean, right out of my pocket, from me to you. Well, from us to you. Let's put it that way, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
because Jeremy's
being said,
me back on a different level.
That being said, we are on our way out.
That's right. All right, take it out. Take it out, sir.
Everybody, I just want to say, as you know, as you've picked up from our outros, the flame of liberty shall not and will not ever be extinguished so long as there are good people that will defend and support it. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed this video, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Natasha, any final comments?
Well said.
All right. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching. God bless.
Thank you.
Keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We'll see you next time.